fathom the use of taxpayers' money to support a military that kills its own people. We further believe that the Egyptian opposition has to learn that in democracy, the only way you can make a change in the political course is through the ballot boxes, not through the bullets of the military. The only extra work needed by the opposition is to meet the expectation of their constituents and earn the trust of the voters. That's how a civilized and a democratic change is accomplished and respected. We are appalled by the chairman of both the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations and the House Committee on Foreign Affairs for squarely blaming the president of Egypt of not pleasing the oppositions. And that's why the coup and the change happened. A good lesson can be learned from President Obama and his Republican rivals who reached deadlock on many issues and experienced the largest number of filibusters in the history of the American politics. While the fact that the President Obama's Secretary of Defense is Republican, no military coup was attempted. We have concerns over the opposition's crave and grab for power by any means and placing their own self-interest ahead of the Egyptian people. Differences as sharp as they may be among political parties are the hallmark of the democracy, and they should never be ground for military intervention. We hope our administration assists Egypt restore the legitimacy and the legitimate choice of its people and retain the trust in the democratic process. Thank you.
Next up, we will hear from Sheikh, and he will be speaking on behalf of Universal Justice Foundation.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Today, we stand to recognize a fact that our government in Washington is refusing to acknowledge. Belgium acknowledged it, Germany acknowledged it, the African Union acknowledged it, that it is a real coup. And what is amazing is, 2 days before the coup, our Secretary of Defense, Mr. Hagel, was meeting with Mr. Sisi in Cairo. So I don't think they were taking coffee with each other. I think they were doing some business. And I believe that this may be the reason our president is unwilling, because the Secretary of Defense would not have conspired with the Secretary of Defense in Egypt without the president knowing what he's doing. This is not only shameful that he doesn't recognize it as a coup, it is also a filibuster on democracy that the president and his Secretary of Defense has done, and it is a reneging on the Cairo speech in which he promised publicly, in Cairo of all places, to stand to support democratic values, stating that democratic values are not limited to America. They are universal, and they are not just values, they are human rights. And that's why we will support it. I'm quoting his speech. And I'm appalled that until now, a month and more beyond, he's still hesitant to call it what it is. And most probably, it's because he is looking much more after Israel's interest, and it is AIPAC supporters here, than he is looking after implementing US law. Absconding on implementing US law is a crime, Mr. President. You cannot ignore your own law to please a foreign partner, no matter how dear this partner may be. And for the Egyptian people, I say one thing: stay the course, be steadfast, continue to be peaceful, carry no arms, never get dragged into violence, and these demonstrations will prove to be a historic event that will be the first time a military coup is turned around by the will of the people, not the other way around. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, we have Dr. Safei from Operation Save Democracy, based out of DC. It is a task force who will tell you a little bit more about Shortly following, we will take some questions, so please prepare your questions you may have for our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Safei Hamid. I'm a university professor at Chatham University, and I thank you all for being here. I have a position by our organization, Operation Save Democracy, and anyone who cares to have a copy, I will put a file here. But I also would like to remind you and invite all of you to join us on the rally tomorrow on Freedom House. Again, there is a flyer here, Freedom Plaza. Yeah. And I would like to highlight very quickly our position paper. We believe that democracy and human rights are under fire in Egypt. And that's sad, because many lives have been paid in January 25, 2011, and since. And that was all these efforts have been aborted. Who we are? Operation Save Democracy is an Egyptian-American task force. It was formed just a month ago to deal with the political crisis, which were, of course, created by the military coup of July 3rd. And I don't like to even spend 1 minute to discuss semantics. It is a military coup. Everybody knows that in the world. What do we do, or what do we want? Operation Save Democracy is calling upon President Obama and the US Congress and the free people of the United States, which I lived for the last 40 years here as an American citizen, and I love its principles and values. I'm calling on all of these people, especially my fellow Americans. I want them to stand with us for democracy and for the human rights in Egypt and everywhere else, and denounce the July 3rd military coup. We are asking that from both the government of the United States and from all the people in the United States. Why do you think, or why do I think it is urgent that USA should act assertively and quickly about that? As an American citizen from Egyptian origin, I am very, very concerned that an anti-Western sentiment will grow and will spread, not only in Egypt, not only in the Arab world, not only in the Muslim world, but all over the world, to accuse the United States to be hypocritic. I'm also concerned about that the resentment of the United States foreign policy may turn into a significant security threat to the vital interests of the United States globally. I am concerned about my country, my adopted country, US. What are the options? Why it's taking so much from the US government? Why is this all hesitation? Basically, the United States will be judged by their declared principles and values and its commitment to democracy and human rights. The question is clear, crystal clear. Should the US support democracy or dictatorship? Should the USA endorse civic governments or military regimes? Should the USA foster human rights or fascism, as we saw in the streets of Cairo and elsewhere? Should the USA celebrate legitimacy, due courses, and due process, or military coups and chaos? And I expect chaos in Egypt, and it will spread if we don't act as a superpower and as